When Marcus shot me that text saying, "Mom, the family getaway's off, money's too tight right now, we'll make it happen down the road," I took him at his word. I'd busted my hump all summer, picking up overtime shifts, while they claimed to be grinding away just as fiercely to get back on their feet financially. 3 weeks on, I scrolled through Instagram, and the reality hit me like a brick. My daughter-in-law, Chantel, had shared pics from a Caribbean voyage. The entire crew was aboard, Marcus grinning in a sharp white linen button-down beneath the tropical glare, Chantel decked out in a pricey coral gown that screamed luxury, little Jamal and Naomi rocking high-end straw sun hats, the kind that run a small fortune on those cruise lines. Even Chantel's folks, Chuck and Eleanor Hull, were there clinking glasses of bubbly. Everyone except yours, truly. The post's tagline, "Epic family escape. Epic." That single term stabbed deep, like a dull blade grinding into my ribs. I kept my mouth shut. No tears, no outbursts, no dialing them up. I just zipped my lips and carried on with my routine, like the rug hadn't been yanked out. Yet right then, a piece of me shattered for good. 3 weeks post-revelation, my cell buzzed at 7 a.m. sharp. Marcus on the line. "Mom, I need $6,000 ASAP, credit card snag. I'll square it with you come next month." I scanned those lines over and over, 5 passes. Each syllable landed like a gut punch. $6,000. Pressing as ever. Same old song from the past 8 years. My hands shook as I hammered out the response. "Ask your in-laws." 4 simple words that flipped the script. 4 words that torched years of my bending over backward, but handed me a gift I'd never dared dream of: liberty. Marcus rang 17 times that day. I ignored everyone. Chantel fired off a rambling text packed with twisted tales of mix-ups and shocks. I trashed it mid-read. That very afternoon, I marched to the bank and shut down our long-standing joint account, canceled their supplemental cards, halted the auto payments. And for the first stretch in almost 10 years, I drew breath without that invisible chokehold tightening. To grasp why those 4 words packed such a wallop, though, we have to rewind to the start. I have to lay out how a 73-year-old black woman who'd toiled her whole life wound up as the family cash machine, how a parent's devotion morphed into a shiny cage she couldn't spot the exit from. It kicked off 8 years back when my husband Earl died and left me solo with a mortgage-free home, a solid retirement check, and a nest egg. Grief crushed me, but Marcus acted even more wrecked. He was my sole boy, my life's anchor, and witnessing his pain tore me apart. One afternoon, 2 months after the burial, he showed up with Chantel. They plunked down on this exact sofa where I'm piecing it all together now. Marcus clasped my hand with that gentle touch he'd mastered so deftly. "Mom, I've got to request a favor," he murmured. "Chantel and I are planning a big sweet 16 bash for Naomi. You see how delicate she is, so breakable. But with the funeral costs and the rough economy, it's out of reach for us. I get it's steep, but could you spot us $10,000? Swear we'll repay in half a year." I eyed Chantel. She beamed that flawless grin, likely one she'd rehearsed endlessly. "It's only short-term, Ruby. We crave a magical keepsake for Naomi's big moment. You get it, don't you?" Sure, I got it. I was the grandma. The fixer who had to nod along. The widow fresh off losing her partner, desperate to feel needed, to prove I still counted in someone's world. So, yeah, I agreed. Wired the $10,000 the following day. Naomi's soiree went down at a swanky exclusive spot, complete with glowing hues and a molten chocolate setup. I lingered at a corner table, eyes on my grandbaby twirling in bliss. They never settled up, never brought it up, and I never pushed. 6 months later, the asks resumed. "Mom, kitchen needs an overhaul. Pipes are shot plus dampness issues. $8,000. Next, Chantel's ride crapped out. $12,000. Then Jamal's elite college tuition, since public schools fell short. $45,000. $15,000 annually across 3 years. Reasons piled up every time. Urgency screamed from each plea, temporary fixes always, and each round I'd dip into my funds and send the cash with minimal probing. 'Cause isn't that the mom gig? Pour yourself out. Hand over everything, no strings. Lurk in the background as the unseen pillar propping it all up. But back then, I missed the line between aiding and exploitation, between genuine care and strings pulling, between kin and easy marks. Those initial years post-Earl were a fog. I drifted through isolation's waves, grabbing at any scrap to stay above water. And Marcus clocked it all. He mapped my every soft spot, every raw edge of this bereft mom's soul. He dropped by every Sunday alongside Chantel and the little ones, wrapping me in one of those extended embraces that left me sensing a lingering sense of belonging, like I hadn't been cast aside yet. "Mom, you seem worn out," he'd remark as Chantel bustled about brewing coffee in my own kitchen like it was hers. "Take it easy and get more downtime. Count on us for anything." And in those moments, I counted my blessings. Looking back, it was naive, short-sighted, a profound isolation that blinded me to how those gatherings invariably wrapped up with a plea disguised as benevolence. Marcus possessed a knack for framing his wants as urgent clan crises. He avoided phrases like, "I desire." Instead, it was always, "We're in dire need." Nothing ever benefited just him. It was supposedly for the youngsters, for tomorrow's security to keep the household steady. "Ma, Jamal requires tutoring in math to snag a spot at a top college." "Ma, Naomi's braces can't wait any longer. The orthodontist warns it'll complicate things down the line if we delay." "Ma, the roof's gotta go. Leaks are appearing, posing real risks." Each plea rang true. Every justification appeared sound. Me, after toiling 53 years as a licensed nursing aide and in medical cleaning roles, scrimping and saving with the rigor of someone intimately acquainted with hardship, I kept dipping into my savings, time after time. Chantel played it more slyly, yet with equal impact. She sidestepped outright demands, opting for barbed remarks masked as empathy. "Aw, Ruby, it's too bad you can't join Jamal's bash at the country club. I get it, spots like that might feel a tad upscale for your taste. Such a shame Naomi misses the school excursion to Europe with her pals. Well, not every child gets equal breaks. Guilt gnawed at me for hoarding cash while my grandkids apparently went without, so I'd volunteer aid that went unspoken but was patently anticipated. $3,000 toward the journey, $2,000 for club dues, $100 for Naomi's emerald gown for her grad ceremony, modest outflows that snowballed into a steady stream of funds heading solely their way. Red flags waved that I dismissed. Minor warnings I silenced, since acknowledging them would have forced a confrontation with unbearable reality. Remember that drive-by past their place, where a gleaming new SUV sat in the drive, a fresh, current year edition with rims gleaming under the sunlight. When I quizzed Marcus, he claimed it was on loan from a buddy. 2 months on, there was Chantel behind the wheel, or Naomi's online snaps from a seaside getaway, which I figured ran at minimum $4,000, mere weeks after Marcus bemoaned their tight finances. Still, I bit my tongue. I buried my suspicions. I talked myself into believing I was overreading signals, just a paranoid senior, and that probing too deeply might sever my sole remaining ties. Deep down, fear gripped me. Fear of utter solitude, fear that halting the flow would halt their appearances, fear of fading into an overlooked elder in a silent home, yearning for rings that had never sound. Thus, I persisted as the open-handed parent, the engaged nana, the reliable source of bundled bills on demand. I made do with the scraps of care they doled out, a brief weekly chat, a fleeting monthly drop-in under an hour, grandkid pics glimpsed via social feeds since they bypassed direct shares. I grinned and insisted all was well, that it sufficed, that their hectic lives made sense. Yet inwardly, a piece of me was fading. An inner void starved for warmth as my funds steadily ebbed. The tipping point started brewing half a year prior to the voyage, though it flew under my radar then. Chantel threw a clan meal to mark her folks' marriage milestone. I stumbled on it accidentally during a rushed FaceTime with Naomi. "Nana, gotta cut this short. We're prepping for Grandpa and Nana Holt's shindig." A stab hit my gut. Grandpa and Nana Holt, like I was erased from the picture. Like my role as grandma evaporated. That evening, I rang Marcus. "Son, Naomi let slip about a gathering." A heavy pause lingered across the line. Right, Mom. Nothing big? Super private. You know Chantel's crew? They're close like that. No offense, but we figured it'd work better sans you." I ended the call with a hollow ache in my torso. Bad. No. Erased. But once more, I zipped it. Once more, I choked down the shame. Once more, I feigned comprehension. 2 weeks post-convo, Marcus arrived at my threshold, brow furrowed in concern. "Mom, we gotta discuss a heavy matter." We settled in the den. He perched tensely on the sofa's brink, fingers interlocked like bracing for grim tidings. Work's hit with cutbacks. Could mean my job's on the chop block. Chantel's fraying at the edges. The young ones crave routine. We're after a money buffer to tide us through the coming stretch, something to ease the pressure. He halted, drawing out the silence. "Would you be able to loan us suodao?" 20,000. The number slammed into me like a blow to the stomach. It exceeded anything he'd ever requested in one go. "Marcus, that's an enormous sum," I murmured, my words shaking. "I get it, Mom. Trust me, if there were any other choice, I wouldn't come to you. But you're the sole person we can rely on. You're our fallback plan. Please." His gaze carried that frightened, childlike plea that always softened my resolve. And yet again, I relented. I wired the $20,000 that Tuesday morning. I recall the day vividly since I had to visit the bank myself to approve such a hefty transfer. The clerk, a young lady sporting square-framed glasses, questioned my certainty 3 times. "It's for my relatives," I explained. She offered a courteous nod, though her expression betrayed a different story. I'd encountered that expression previously. The blend of sympathy and unspoken criticism aimed at elderly women who appeared overly trusting. I completed the paperwork without delay, convinced at that instant I was rescuing my boy from a genuine emergency. I still viewed the funds as a short-term fix, leading to brighter days. I still trusted the idea of family. Marcus rang me that afternoon, his tone brimming with gratitude. "Thanks, Mom. You can't imagine the burden you've lifted from me. I promise this won't last. In 6 months, I'll repay every cent. I mean it." I ended the call, sensing a rush of purpose, of being valued, of mattering. How painfully ironic. The following 2 months brought an eerie quiet. Marcus reached out less frequently than usual. His messages came brief and vague. "Everything's fine, Mom. Tied up at the job." Chantel quit replying in our group chat. When I attempted video chats with the grandkids, they were perpetually occupied with schoolwork, playmates, or activities. I began experiencing that dreadful feeling of being an intrusion, of disrupting existences that functioned smoothly in my absence. One evening, I dialed Marcus straight away. I craved the sound of his voice. I sought reassurance that I hadn't faded from his world. "Mom, not now. I'm in a crucial conference. I'll get back to you," he rushed out. He never did. That evening, I lingered in the kitchen, nursing a tea that cooled untouched as I stared at the silent phone, anticipating a call I realized wouldn't come. It was Dot, the woman next door, who prompted me to doubt everything. At 68, a widow like myself, she possessed a subtle poise, a self-assurance I envied. One afternoon, she welcomed me for coffee. "Ruby, forgive my nosiness, but I've noticed you lately and you seem altered, more subdued. What's troubling you?" And just like that, unplanned, no longer able to contain it, I spilled it all. The unpaid borrowings, the shattered vows, the sensation of purchasing fleeting affection with $100 notes. Dot absorbed my words without a single interruption, her deep brown eyes locked on me. When I wrapped up, she exhaled heavily. Ruby, you're not acting as a parent. You're functioning as an ATM, and ATMs demand fees, not only monetary, but heartfelt. What returns are you receiving for all you pour out? That query lingered with me for days. What was coming back my way? Hasty phone chats, duty-bound drop-ins, the honor of recollection solely during financial shortages. A week later, a minor yet pivotal event unfolded. Jamal's birthday arrived, my oldest grandson hitting 21. I'd purchased his present weeks earlier, a pricey authentic leather wallet I figured he'd appreciate. I phoned Marcus to inquire about the family event's timing. Silence stretched awkwardly. Mom, Jamal prefers a low-key thing this time, just him and his buddies. Kids these days, you know, but I'll deliver your gift. No stress. I clicked off, gripped by a fresh emotion. Not sorrow, fury. Fury at my exclusion, even from the edges of their world. Fury that Jamal had celebrated 21 birthdays, and I'd attended them all. I'd funded many. Yet now, I wasn't worth an hour of his attention. That night, I fired up my computer and pored over 8 years of bank records. I'd never examined them thoroughly before. I'd avoided totaling them, terrified of the ultimate tally. But then, I had to face it. I needed to measure precisely the price of upholding the facade that I counted. I launched a spreadsheet and began entering figures. Naomi's Sweet 16, $16,000. Kitchen remodel, $8,000. Chantel's vehicle, $12,000. Jamal's college for 3 years, $45,000. Roof fix, $7,000. School excursion, $3,000. Club dues, $2,000. And on it went. Outfits, lessons, health crises without receipts, fixes for issues that hadn't occurred. At the conclusion, the sum on the display glared like an indictment. $62,300. $62,300 across 8 years. I fixed my eyes on it until the digits swam. That equaled my existence. That captured precisely the fruit of 53 years of labor, scrimping, forgoing, and in exchange. A vacant home, a device that stayed mute, grandkids who regarded me as a cumbersome duty, a son who perceived me as mere relief, regarding his money troubles, not a human being. I snapped the laptop shut, and a resolve solidified within me. It was like an iron barrier crashing down in my heart. Tears didn't come. No outburst followed. Instead, a peculiar chill settled in, a sharp lucidity I'd never known before. After 8 years, for the first time, I questioned whether a parent's affection meant inevitable ruin, if boundless giving was noble or merely fear, masked as devotion. 7 days on, the note about the getaway reached me. Marcus rang that Saturday midday. His tone was easygoing, laid back. Mom, there's news. We'd arranged a group voyage for the warm season, but it'll have to wait. Finances won't stretch to indulgences like that. Better to hold off till next year when prospects brighten. A odd twist gripped my gut, like a muffled warning. What voyage, my boy? You never brought it up. It was just a notion Chantel and I tossed around. Meant to catch you off guard as a treat, but practicality wins, doesn't it? No point borrowing trouble these days. We'll settle for a low-key break right here. I murmured agreement, though he couldn't glimpse my nod. Fine, son. Got it. We ended the call, and I fixed on the device with an uneasy vibe. His delivery rang false somewhere. The tale felt scripted, yet I chose trust. I granted him that final shot, the leeway of doubt, that unwavering belief moms hold for their offspring, despite signs yelling otherwise. The break in routine hit, and I remained at home. I tidied cupboards already spotless. I sorted faded snapshots. I prepared fancy dishes for a solo eater, then crammed remnants into the fridge till they went bad. One midday, Dot urged me along to a reading circle for seniors at the local hall. Pass, I replied, not feeling it. She eyed me with the raw honesty true companions claim. Ruby, are you just hovering by the line? You're on hold. That's not truly living. It's mere survival. Her words hit home, though I balked at owning it. Not then. 21 days into the downtime, Marcus's quiet stretched near total. No ring to check in. No quick note wondering if I wanted a thing. Zilch. That void grew weightier by the hour. I told myself he must be swamped. Managing a role like his demanded effort. Likely he was pouring energy into the little ones, savoring that vital unwind. Yet in the shadowed corner where we stash unwelcome realities, I sensed the flaw. A nagging disquiet lingered, akin to sensing a key lapse without recall. It clung through dawn to dusk, lodged in my belly like a frozen weight. That Thursday midday, mid-chopping for a veggie stew, certainty struck. I'd abandon it. The cell buzzed with an alert. Instagram. I rarely scrolled feeds. I'd added it solely to glimpse grandkids' snaps. Those slim glimpses of their world I dwindled to. But then, an urge pulled me to launch it. Perhaps instinct? Perhaps fate nudging me to the facts I'd dodged. Chantel's update, fresh by a score of minutes. My pulse quickened, reason unknown. I clicked her page, and it hit. The lead image showed her lounging on a vast vessel's rail, azure waters astern, in that pricey coral frock. Shades mirroring the heavens. A flawless grin. Impossibly so. The words beneath, memorable kin escape. I flicked onward. Marcus appeared in pale linen, sun-kissed, cradling a fruity drink topped with a wee parasol. He seemed at ease, content. Zero stress etched there. No hint of cash woes in the frame. No sign the outing got scrapped for funds. Swipes continued. Jamal and Naomi poolside on deck, donning those pricey woven caps from onboard high-end shops. A shot of the clan at supper in a posh onboard eatery, crisp linens and stemware gleaming. Then the breaker, their collective portrait. Marcus, Chantel, Jamal, Naomi, plus Chantel's folks, Chuck and Eleanor. Beams all around, glasses raised, united. A full circle relishing an epic retreat. All save me. Breath fled my chest. Fingers trembled wild. The phone nearly slipped. I pored over the shots anew, each in turn, hunting rationale, a nuance to show my error in reading it. But no such mercy. Reality struck hard and plain. Deceit. Marcus had faced me squarely as he chatted over the line. He spoke in that grave, anxious tone, and he'd outright deceived me. The trip wasn't off at all. They'd just cut me out of it. They'd concluded I wasn't worthy of joining. The grandmother who'd bankrolled their existence for 8 years apparently didn't merit a spot on that once-in-a-lifetime family getaway. Yet Chantel's mom did. She earned her place in those snapshots. She belonged to the clan. I tallied the updates, 14 altogether, 14 snapshots frozen in time and broadcast to everyone, 14 pieces of evidence showing how utterly expendable I was in their world. In one image, Chantel grinned beside an enormous platter of lobster, captioning it, "When life hands you the good stuff, live like it's handed you gold," as if the funds for that voyage had rained down from heaven. I began figuring the cost of a Caribbean sailing for 5, since Chantel's folks were clearly part of the deal. Those ocean-facing staterooms visible in the pics, the gourmet spreads, the fancy drinks, it added up to at least $10,000, probably higher. $15,000 blown on a holiday. All while they'd fed me tales of money woes, pleading for my empathy as they claimed such extravagances were out of reach. I rose and approached the window. My knees buckled, as if they weren't mine anymore. Beyond the glass, sunlight beamed without a care. Folks strolled the sidewalk, carrying on with their everyday routines, as my own shattered quietly. I grabbed the device once more. Now I scrutinized each element with an icy detachment I never knew lurked in me. The timestamps on the shares lined up precisely with the 3 weeks they'd been away. The identical 3 weeks I'd endured solo in the house, racked with shame for probing their account, persuading myself I was a suspicious parent for challenging my boy's word. I magnified an image where the cruise operator's logo appeared on a buoy. A quick web search confirmed it. A high-end outfit, the sort touting elite adventures, Michelin-level dining, top-tier shows. No way was this a cheap jaunt. I shut my eyes and attempted a full inhale, but my chest refused to expand. A weight pressed there, like an invisible force crushing my sternum. The deception stung, sure, but it was the calculated cruelty that gutted me. They'd orchestrated this exclusion. They'd methodically chosen to sideline me. They'd spun an elaborate fabrication to distance me. And the cruelest twist, the one that ripped me apart, was their shamelessness in making it public. They'd splashed it across social networks. They realized I could stumble upon it. Or worse, far more devastating. They just didn't give a damn. Perhaps they hadn't spared a thought for how I'd react to the images. Perhaps I mattered so little that blocking me from their feeds wasn't even on their radar. I sank back down, this round onto the carpet, spine pressed to the partition. The gadget remained clutched in my grip, the gallery still aglow. I reflected on every instance I'd rationalized their actions, every rationalization I'd conjured to account for their aloofness, their chill, their endless pleas for funds chased by drawn-out quiet spells. I pondered the $62,300, each wire transfer, each cash-stuffed packet, each vow to pay back that evaporated into nothing. And with a harsh, overdue insight, I wondered if I'd ever meant more to them than a mere ATM. Did my son truly cherish me, or just the perks I provided? Did my grandkids really see me, or only the gran who arrived bearing lavish presents and bailout cash? The broth on the range started bubbling over, the noise yanking me to the present. I hauled myself upright, operating mechanically, killed the heat, and ladled out a serving I had no intention of touching. I perched at the dining nook, the very spot where Marcus had voiced countless demands, where Chantel had sipped her brew while slipping in her toxic remarks masked as worry. And amid that oppressive hush, I reached a resolve. No tears would fall, no calls would go out, no showdowns would erupt. I wouldn't deliver the theatrics they likely anticipated if the truth ever surfaced. I'd opt for something far stronger. I'd hold my tongue, I'd bide my time. And the next time they surfaced with their fabricated urgencies and timely predicaments, my response would await. But it wouldn't echo the yielding parent I'd played for 8 years. It would come from a woman who'd at last opened her eyes. I stowed the phone sans erasing the pics, sans barring contacts, sans rash actions. This go-around, I'd play it sharp. This time, I'd await the perfect instant. 3 weeks, I reckoned. In 3 weeks, they'd return from the ship, and only then would they sense the shift, that the endless money source they'd tapped for 8 years had sealed shut for good. That night, sleep completely escaped me. I lay there, eyes locked on the ceiling, as an old fragment of my being faded away, and a tougher, more resilient force started emerging from the debris. The weeks after uncovering those images felt surreal. I stuck to my daily habits, yet nothing seemed the same, like I was observing my existence from a distance. I'd rise each morning, brew my coffee, tidy the place, flip through channels on the TV, but it all washed over me without impact. It resembled being submerged, where noises fade into a muffled haze. On Saturday morning, Dot rapped at my door. "Ruby, you appear exhausted. What's wrong?" She stepped inside uninvited and plopped down on the sofa with the ease that close companions share. I couldn't contain it any longer. I revealed the pictures to her, one after another. She examined them quietly, her face shifting from shock to outrage and ultimately to an icy fury I'd never witnessed in her before. "That bastard," she stated bluntly. "Pardon my French, Ruby, but this is inexcusable. It's not mere oversight. It's deliberate malice." I simply nodded, silent, knowing that if I spoke I'd shatter. Dot remained by my side that day and the following one. She avoided dishing out hollow suggestions or cliches on pardon and kinship. She simply existed there for me. She insisted I eat despite my lack of appetite. She dragged me for strolls in the park when all I craved was isolation. Above all, She affirmed my hurt without downplaying it. One night, as we sipped tea in her flat, she shared words that lodged deep in my mind. "Ruby, you owe them zilch. No more opportunities, no further empathy, no additional offerings. You've contributed plenty, far too much, in fact. Now, it's your turn to claim what they never offered. Dignity." Those statements felt like the approval I'd unknowingly sought. Approval to feel fury. Approval to sever connections. Approval to prioritize myself after 8 long years. Precisely 21 days had elapsed since spotting the images. 21 days of total quiet from Marcus. 0 messages checking on me. No brief ring to inquire about my needs. Zilch. They were occupied with their opulent voyage, forgetting the very person who'd enabled their extravagance. I tracked each passing day, not out of eager hope, but from the firm knowledge that eventually they'd require aid. They inevitably did, and this round I intended to be prepared. I rehearsed my response in my head countless times. I recited it before the mirror. I jotted it down in a journal. 4 simple words poised to transform it all. 4 words to reclaim my self-worth. Ask your wife's family. On the 22nd day, a Tuesday morning, my cell buzzed at 7:15 a.m., a message from Marcus. My pulse quickened, but not with the old nervous thrill, more like the eager watchfulness of a tracker, long in wait for quarry. I viewed the text. "Mom, I need $6,000 ASAP. Card glitch. Repay you next month." I scanned those lines repeatedly, 5 times over. Each pass reinforced my deepest fears. No greeting, no inquiry about my state, not even a nod to my health after 3 weeks of nothing. Just the blunt demand, raw and unmasked, $6,000. Pressing as ever, like the prior 8 years had drilled in only one lesson. Mom always agrees. Mom always provides. Mom always comprehends. Yet that Mom had perished 3 weeks prior, amid those vacation snapshots. This was a different person now, one who'd faced reality and refused to look away. My hands shook as I typed back, though not from hesitation or worry. It was a sensation I barely recognized, aimed at my own child for the first time. Empowerment? Authority? The sharp thrill of erecting a limit after endless accessibility. I typed, "Ask your wife's family." Nothing more. No justifications, no blame, no icons to ease the sting. Just those 4 words dispatched. The delivery tick showed up. Then, seconds later, the read receipts. I pictured his reaction. First bewilderment, then unease, culminating in alarm as he grasped the shift. I didn't have to linger. Half a minute on, my phone lit up with an incoming call. Marcus. I let it go to voicemail. He dialed repeatedly. I tallied 17 attempts over the ensuing 3 hours. 17 frantic bids to reclaim the dynamic, to slot me back into the role of compliant, fix-it parent. But I ignored them all. Each unanswered ring marked my inner uprising. Every silenced buzz affirmed my autonomy. I trembled, no denying it. Decades of habit urged me to pick up, to listen to his version, to offer leeway. But there was another resolute inner voice, fresh yet powerful, echoed the images from the cruise that evoked the $62,000 loss, which in turn affirmed that I merited dignity just like anyone else. Around 2 p.m., so a lengthy note popped up from Chantel, brimming with exclamations and uppercase emphasis. "Ruby, I'm utterly baffled by this situation." Marcus is beside himself with concern. Surely it's all a mix-up. Could we discuss this maturely? The kids are bewildered. You can't treat your family this way. I perused the note with an unexpected serenity. It featured the usual tactics of coercion, casting me as the antagonist, framing my boundaries as an assault on our kin, as though I alone had shattered the bonds, as if establishing limits after decades of mistreatment constituted an inexcusable offense. I observed she avoided any reference to the cruise whatsoever. No remorse, no acknowledgement of the deception, merely outrage at my boldness in refusing. I erased the note without a response. Silence would unsettle her far more than any retort I might compose. Later that afternoon, despite my still shaking hands, a resolve that intensified by the moment propelled me to the bank. I requested the teller sporting those square-framed glasses who had assisted with my $20,000 transfer before. She knew me right away. "What brings you in today, madam?" "I want to shut down the shared account with my son," I stated. My tone came out steadier than anticipated. Plus, revoke all supplementary cards under their names and halt any scheduled payment permissions. She paused, eyes widening in astonishment. "Are you certain? This is a significant step." "Absolutely positive," I assured her. I've rarely felt so certain about anything. I completed the required paperwork, initialing each spot as directed, and with every mark it seemed I was retrieving fragments of my identity that I'd surrendered in the illusion of earning affection. The procedure dragged on for nearly 2 hours. As she inputted the details into the database, I perched on that stiff plastic seat, experiencing an odd sensation, tranquility. Not the soothing, gentle kind from films, but more akin to the hush following a tempest amid the wreckage. Yet the downpour had ceased at last. The teller presented the concluding papers. "The shared account is now terminated. The additional cards are voided. They can't touch your money anymore, madam." "Thanks," I replied. Then, impulsively, I tacked on, "I ought to have taken this step ages ago." She regarded me with a compassionate sorrow. Better now than not at all. Love can obscure our vision at times. Departing the bank, I sensed I'd shed far more than a mere financial link. I'd discarded 8 years of erasure, of being expendable, valued solely for the cash I provided. Upon arriving home, 32 unopened notifications awaited. From Marcus, Chantel, even Jamal, all inquiring what ailed Grandma. I skimmed through them swiftly. Not one checked on my well-being. Not one extended regret. They all insisted on answers, as if I owed them reasons for safeguarding my own space. The final one, from Marcus, declared, "Mom, this is absurd. You're grown up. You can't behave like a kid over some petty grievance. Phone me so we can converse rationally." Those lines struck me, solidifying my inner steel even further. That was his view of me. A sulking youngster, not a woman deceived, exploited, and intentionally sidelined, not a parent warranting basic regard, merely a funding mechanism glitching and requiring patronizing repairs. That evening, I dined solo, as I had throughout the prior 3 weeks, yet this occasion felt transformed. I arranged the table with care. I pulled out the elegant dishes reserved for guests who seldom appeared. I portioned the food sensibly. I chewed deliberately, relishing each morsel, and after a prolonged stretch, that gnawing void in my heart had vanished. I no longer sensed I was anticipating an elusive presence. I existed fully within my existence. Post-meal, I brewed tea for myself and settled onto the sofa with a volume I'd purchased months back, but left unread. I devoured 3 sections in a row, undisturbed, without glancing at the device every 5 minutes in vain hope of contact that might ease my isolation. The phone lay nearby, buzzing sporadically with fresh alerts that I dismissed one by one, but it held no sway over me anymore. It couldn't govern my serenity. The ensuing days blended a peculiar blend of freedom and ache. One facet of me felt remarkably unburdened, like dropping a rucksack laden with rocks after years of hauling it. Yet panic surfaced too, the unease of shattering a harmful but ingrained routine. I'd jolt awake at night, pulse pounding, questioning my choice, my severity, whether a devoted parent would proceed thus. But then the cruise snapshots resurfaced in my mind. The falsehood, the $62,000, and the uncertainty faded, supplanted by a firmer resolve. Certainty. Dot visited me each afternoon. Occasionally we'd chat, but other times we'd simply share a quiet moment over cups of coffee. Having her there reassured me that I wasn't losing my mind, that my feelings were entirely justified. 1 week after I'd shut down the bank account, Marcus appeared unannounced at my doorstep. No prior call, no inquiry about whether it suited me. He just arrived that Saturday morning, pressing the buzzer repeatedly until I relented and let him in sight. Spotting him there, his skin still bronzed from the Caribbean warmth, dressed in an unfamiliar shirt likely picked up at some upscale ship's store, a chill washed over me, an emotion I'd never imagined directing at my own child. Detachment. "Mom, we have to discuss this," he declared, adopting that commanding voice he reserved for seizing control. I didn't usher him inside. We remained planted in the threshold, him out in the corridor, me barring the way. "Speak," I responded curtly. He blinked, evidently taken aback by my unwelcoming stance. "This is absurd. You can't shut down the account out of nowhere. You can't dodge my phone calls. I'm your child." "Precisely," I countered, drawing on a serenity I hadn't realized I held. "You're my son, and I'm your parent. Not your ATM, not your easy fix, not someone you deceive and sideline whenever it suits you." Marcus raked his fingers through his hair, a fidgety habit from his youth. "Mom, if it's the vacation that's upset you, I can clarify. We plan to inform you later, but Chantel figured a post-trip reveal would delight you more." "Delight me," I echoed deliberately. "Delight me with social media pics I stumbled upon. Delight me with fabrications about canceling due to cash shortages. Delight me by including Chantel's folks but leaving me out." "What sort of delight is that, Marcus?" He fidgeted uneasily. It was a mix-up. Events spiraled. "You understand Chantel's obsession with arrangements." "No," I cut him off. "Don't pin this on Chantel. You reached out to me. You misled me. You solicited $6,000 mere weeks after dropping heaven knows how much on that voyage." His features shifted. The facade of the concerned offspring shattered. For an instant, I glimpsed something harsh beneath. Annoyance, restlessness, like I was a pesky barrier to clear for resuming his routine. "Mom, you're blowing this out of proportion. I'm seeking a loan, not charity. I've repaid you every time." That pushed me over the edge, that brazen falsehood so demeaning to my smarts. "Never," I declared, my tone sharpening for the first time. "You've never returned a dime. Over 8 years, Marcus, totaling $62,300. I've calculated it all. It's all logged. Each deposit, each so-called short-term advance that lingered unpaid. So don't you dare fib to me directly again." His cheeks flushed. He appeared truly shocked that I'd tracked it meticulously, as though it hadn't crossed his mind that I might be so methodical, so vigilant. "That's not the same," he muttered. "That was for household needs, the children, crises. What crisis justified the cruise?" I pressed. Silence met my question. He merely regarded me with a blend of exasperation and incredulity, as if I'd morphed into an unfamiliar figure. And perhaps I had. Perhaps the parent he remembered, the one who nodded to all requests, gulped down every tale, placed his wants above her self-respect, had faded away in recent weeks. "Mom, I can't fathom what's come over you recently, but we must resolve this. I require entry to the account. I want life to revert to how it was." "No," I stated flatly. That single syllable, brief yet potent, lingered heavily in the space between us like an unyielding verdict. No further remittances, no additional advances, no shared finances anymore. It's finished, Marcus. He advanced a step. For a heartbeat, I braced for an outburst, but his words emerged subdued, laced with menace. "You're erring gravely. You'll wind up isolated, elderly, and forsaken, and should you require aid when roles reverse, I won't show. I'm already isolated," I responded evenly. "For 3 years now, since you deemed me useful only for what I could provide. And honestly, I'd rather embrace genuine solitude than feign connection with those who view me as a mobile cash source." Marcus shook his head, his look turning steely. "You're self-centered. After all we've extended to you, Chantel draws you into gatherings, the children reach out, I drop by. And this is your gratitude." Each phrase unveiled more. So my role in their world was a concession on their part. The scant affections tossed my way were compensation for my monetary support. Not affection, not kinship, just commerce. Leave, I instructed. Exhaustion colored my words. Exit my home now, Marcus. He fixed me with a prolonged stare, maybe anticipating my collapse, my usual surrender. But I met his eyes steadily, unyielding. At last, he pivoted. "You'll rue this day," he tossed back as he headed for the elevator. "Doubt it," I whispered once the door clicked shut. I lingered in that spot for a few minutes, absorbing the reality of the moment. I'd faced off with my son. I'd drawn a line in the sand. I'd refused him outright. Yet the earth kept turning. No catastrophe struck. I drew breath steadily. I remained upright. I was the same person, but now carrying a bit more self-respect. Later that day, Dot appeared at my door, almost as if she'd known I required her presence. I shared the whole story with her. She enveloped me in a prolonged embrace. "You've got my admiration," she murmured softly. "I get how painful this is. I know the difficulty, but standing your ground like that was a true gesture of caring for yourself." We shed tears side by side, not purely from sorrow, but from a deeper tangle of emotions. It felt like mourning the old me who'd passed away, the one who believed her value came from endless giving, from bearing every burden, from constant self-denial. Dot stuck around that evening. She joined me for the meal. Afterward, we settled in to view a classic film on television. For the first time in ages, real laughter bubbled up from me. The first occasion in months where I savored an instant free from underlying worry, the dread of an incoming call, of demands pulling at me, of the obligation to always be on call. The ensuing days grew calmer. Marcus stayed away. Chantel's texts tapered off until they vanished entirely. It seemed they'd grasped that this round I wouldn't yield. Or maybe they'd located fresh financial support, rendering me obsolete. Regardless of why, the quiet brought solace. I began tackling pursuits I'd shelved for years. I enrolled in an art workshop at the local center. There, I connected with women around my age, all reclaiming their identities after decades devoted to everyone else's needs. One shared a strikingly parallel ordeal with her kids. We bonded swiftly, linked by that unspoken empathy born from weathering identical storms. One morning, a fortnight following Marcus's drop-in, I visited a tour operator. An advertisement for Italian excursions had caught my eye, stirring something dormant inside. "I'd like details on this journey," I informed the representative, a youthful lady with a warm grin. She displayed images of Rome, Florence, and Venice, destinations I'd long dreamed of, yet always deferred for more pressing expenditures, for others who supposedly deserved the funds over me. "What's the cost?" I inquired. She quoted the figure, $4,500 for a 10-day package covering everything. Half a year prior, that sum would have felt outrageous for personal indulgence. Far too indulgent, too wasteful. But in the wake of my trials, after grasping that my existence mattered too, it struck me as entirely justified. "Sign me up," I declared. The agent paused, taken aback by my decisiveness. "Certain about this. Need time to mull it over." "No second thoughts required," I countered. "I've pondered enough through the years. Now's the moment for action." Securing that itinerary marked my initial blatantly self-centered choice in decades, and I use self-centered stripped of its old baggage for me. It was purely that, devoted solely to my benefit, resolving no one's issues but my urge to embrace life before it slipped away. I departed the agency clutching the paperwork and a peculiar sensation in my heart that I soon recognized: thrill, expectation. The joy of anticipating an adventure centered entirely on me. From the sidewalk, I phoned Dot. "I went for it," I announced the instant she picked up. "The Italy getaway is locked in." She let out a joyous whoop over the connection. "Ruby, you've earned my deepest respect. Departure date." 6 weeks out, 10 days exploring spots I'd only glimpsed in pictures. We ended the call, and I paused there on the pavement, grinning ridiculously, basking in the sunlight on my skin, pondering that perhaps at 73 I was at last mastering the art of prioritizing my own life. The next few weeks blurred into a flurry of arrangements. I purchased a fresh piece of luggage, ditching the worn-out one, laden with recollections of obligatory family outings I scarcely appreciated. At a boutique, I experimented with outfits I'd previously shunned. I selected a mustard-hued dress, vibrant, daring, a stark shift from the muted grays and beiges I'd favored for years to blend into the background. The clerk, a tattooed young lady with inked sleeves, remarked, "It suits you beautifully. You glow." Peering into the glass, I saw myself anew after so long, and I approved. No longer the overlooked grandma, no longer the spurned parent, just Ruby, a 73-year-old embracing her choices. I grabbed the dress plus a couple others. I also picked up sturdy footwear for strolling, a compact camera to capture memories, and a journal for jotting trip observations. Dot and Yvette pitched in with the itinerary. We pored over guides, scouted eateries, and compiled must-see spots. It felt joyful, effortless, a far cry from the strained family meetups. No underlying strains lurked, no veiled pleas surfaced. It felt like a casual chat among friends. Just us three senior ladies buzzing with enthusiasm over organizing a getaway. One afternoon, as we sipped tea in my sitting room, she turned to me and inquired, "Any word from your boy lately?" I gave a slight shake of my head. Zilch. Total quiet. She gave an empathetic nod, probably for the best. Quiet can often speak volumes more than words. Do you fret that they could turn up while you're away? Her query took me off guard. I pondered it for a moment, genuinely. "Nah," I answered at last. "Whatever they might try to say or do doesn't scare me now. They've lost that hold on me." 2 weeks prior to departure, an unforeseen event unfolded. An email popped up from an unfamiliar sender. The heading said, "About Marcus and Chantel." I clicked it open, a mix of intrigue and wariness in me. It came from Chuck Holt, Chantel's dad. The note was polite yet straightforward. "Dear Ruby, I've just become aware of the mess involving you, my daughter, and her husband. Chantel has finally filled me in on the cruise fiasco and the details. I need you to understand I had no clue they'd deceived you regarding the cancellation. If I'd realized, I wouldn't have gone along with the invite. Their actions were out of line. You're owed an apology, though I doubt it'll come from them. So, here's mine. Furthermore, my wife and I won't take any more gifts from them that stem from your kindness. We've had a stern talk with Chantel on matters of integrity and courtesy. Wishing you all the good things ahead. Best, Chuck Holt." I went over the email thrice. It caught me completely unprepared. Never figured anyone from their clan would step up with the basic courtesy to own what went down. I shot back a short response. "Dear Chuck, thank you for your note and your candor. I bear no grudges against you or your spouse." Fingers crossed. Chantel takes this as a lesson. Best, Ruby Payne. Odd, right? My son's wife's father showed more backbone than my own flesh and blood. That twist didn't escape me, yet it sparked a kind of optimism in me. Not that Marcus and I would patch things up, but that good folks still existed out there. Ones who spot injustice, ones who make amends even if it's not squarely on them, far beyond what my boy had ever managed. The day prior to my journey, while wrapping up the packing, my cell buzzed. An unsaved number, but I knew it right away. Jamal, my eldest grandson. I paused before picking up. "Hi there," I managed. "Grandma." His tone came across odd, jittery. "Mind if we chat?" "Sure thing," I said, bracing for whatever scheme he might pitch. But his words floored me. "Grandma, I'm here to say sorry. I know my parents fibbed to you about the cruise. I overheard the fights. I've seen them hit you up for cash year after year, and I stayed mum. My quiet made me part of it. I'm truly regretful. I perched on the bed's side, absorbing what he shared. At 21, Jamal qualified as a grown-up, and here he was owning his role in the whole affair. Way more grown-up than his dad's best efforts. "Thanks for reaching out, Jamal," I murmured gently. "It touches me deeply." A heavy pause hung on the line. "Grandma, one more thing you should hear. Mom and Dad are in deep money woes. They've always spent like there's no tomorrow. Looks like they baked your support into their spending plan. With the account shut down, they're freaking out. They offloaded Mom's vehicle. They're lagging on bills for a bunch of stuff. And rather than owning their mess, they're pointing fingers at you." My resolve stiffened. So the rumors held water. No fluke hardships, no short-term binds. Just a way of life propped up by my funds. "Jamal, I value you sharing this. But get this straight. Your folks' money troubles aren't on me. They're grown. Their choices, their fallout. Now they deal with it." "I get it," he rushed in. "I'm not phoning to beg for bailout cash for them. I'm calling so you know I'm not wired like them, that I see their treatment of you as dead wrong, and that if you'd ever want to bond with me separate from them, I'd welcome it." His statement hit me right in the core. Closest I'd come to winning in this mess. Not reclaiming my son, but perhaps forging a genuine tie with my grandson someday. One rooted in equality. Sans dollar signs. "I'd welcome that as well, Jamal," I answered, my throat tightening. "Appreciate the call. Look after yourself." "You too, Grandma, and have a blast on your adventure. Naomi says you earned it." We ended the call, and I lingered there, phone clutched, tears slipping quietly. But these weren't from hurt this time. More like release, the affirmation that I wasn't losing it, that standing my ground made sense. Come morning, Dot and Yvette saw me off at the terminal, my fresh luggage in tow, with my mustard-colored dress neatly tucked away, my camera, my journal. And for the first time in 8 years, I brought along something far more precious: optimism. The kind that whispered life might still hold joyful surprises, that joy at 73 wasn't out of reach, that this age could mark a fresh start rather than a finish line. We embraced at the airport gate. Dot held me close. "You'll shine out there," she murmured. "Return transformed. Hold on to this. No one gets to steal it." "I will," I vowed, and I truly intended to. Passing through security, I felt unburdened like I hadn't in ages. Each stride pulling me from my past felt like progress toward a future that was truly my own, one no one could snatch because it wasn't funded by their permission or company. I'd earned it myself through my labor, purely for my own joy. The journey dragged on, yet it didn't bother me. Gazing at the clouds from my window, I reflected on the trials that led here. The $62,000 squandered, the deceptions uncovered, the tough standoffs, the lines drawn in the sand, and at last, this liberation. Touching down in Rome, I disembarked amid the crowd, and after so long, my mind wasn't on others. No fretting over Marcus's needs, no shame in indulging myself, no excuses owed to anyone. I was simply immersed in the now, vibrant and eager for 10 days of exploration. Not only of Italy, but of who I really was. What did Ruby become without an audience, without demands or judgments, when I alone held the spotlight? Italy unveiled truths beyond its breathtaking buildings, savory meals, or storied lanes. It showed me I could thrive solo, that purpose didn't hinge on family approval, that even at 73, I could astonish myself. On my initial day in Florence, I strolled until my soles throbbed. I entered the Uffizi Gallery and paused before a canvas for 20 full minutes, simply absorbing it. No pressure to hurry, no queries about lunch, no gripes of tedium. Just me, the artwork, and the soothing quiet of inner harmony. I dined at a cozy trattoria, where a silver-haired server, an elder with a bushy gray mustache, made me feel like royalty. He suggested a fine wine, shared tales of local lore, and I chuckled from the heart for the first time in ages. In Venice, I perched by the lagoon, observing the waterways. The hues of the liquid were unlike anything I'd witnessed up close. Families frolicked, lovers clasped hands, and folks my age ambled the banks. All appeared perfectly in place. I pulled out my journal and jotted freely, not a tidy log, but scattered reflections. After 73 years, I'm grasping that my fulfillment can't rest on pleasing everyone else. Pouring out until depleted wasn't devotion. It was ruin. True kin aren't bound by blood. They honor your spirit. The ideas poured out smoothly, like they'd simmered inside for decades, now bursting free. A local woman settled nearby, her hair pure silver, eyes etched with deep lines. In Italian, she inquired about my origins. I responded in my halting English, America. "Ah, Americana," she beamed, "solo traveler." "Indeed," I said, and for once those words rang with strength, not sorrow or isolation, like empowerment, a deliberate path. She gave a knowing nod. "Same here. My kids expect me homebound at their beck and call, but I've claimed my later days as my own." Our gazes met, forging a wordless bond, that quiet solidarity among women who've spent lifetimes putting others first, now choosing self first. We chatted for an hour. She shared her ups and downs, her quiet defiances. I recounted my own tale. She heard me out without a word. At the end, she rested her lined palm over mine. "You chose wisely," she stated plainly. "Pardon others if you must, but guard your dignity like a treasure." We parted with an embrace, and though I never crossed paths with her again, her counsel lingered. In Florence, I toured the Duomo and ascended its dome. The climb was arduous, my breaths coming short, but I pressed on. At the summit, the panorama of the city stole what air I had left. From that height, it all seemed minuscule. My troubles, my hurts, my unappreciative boy, dwarfed by the world's expanse. I grabbed my camera and snapped shots, not for sharing, but to capture the instant, a tangible proof that Ruby stood here, more than just a parent, a nana, a bank account. A youthful pair requested a photo of them. I obliged with pleasure. Then they urged me to pose for one of myself. I paused for a moment. Attention wasn't something I was accustomed to, yet I agreed. Positioning myself by the scenic viewpoint with the breeze tousling my silver strands, I let a genuine, effortless grin appear. Later, glancing at the picture, I hardly knew the face staring back. My gaze held a new spark, reminiscent of liberation. Each destination offered its own revelation. Observing the gondolas in Venice, I realized that true treasures demand time and tenderness, and I'd exhausted mine on folks who took it for granted, neglecting to craft something splendid just for me. Savoring genuine pasta in Rome, I grasped that tending to my physical and inner self wasn't self-indulgence. It was essential for enduring. For years, I'd nourished everyone else while my spirit withered away. In every spot, I shed remnants of the former Ruby, not objects, but fragments of the fearful self, the guilt-ridden one, the version whose value hinged on her helpfulness. That persona got abandoned across Italy's towns until just the refreshed Ruby endured, the one who recognized her worth, the one who claimed joy without seeking approval. During the journey, I mostly kept my device in flight mode. Once daily, I'd switch it on to fire off a brief note to Dot, assuring her I was fine. I ignored any notifications from Marcus. I avoided scrolling through social feeds. I refused to slip back into the life that had drained me for ages. And that freedom felt profound. It resembled breaking free from a dependency I hadn't acknowledged. The reliance on being indispensable, the craving to feel significant, even if merely for my funds. I was discovering how to value my own existence. And that sufficed. On the tour's final evening, our group gathered for a goodbye meal in Rome. 15 participants from various nations and backgrounds joined in. Midway through the meal, the leader invited everyone to reflect on the journey's impact. When it was my moment, I faltered. Public speaking wasn't my strength, yet an inner urge compelled me to speak truthfully. This adventure, I started, my words shaky, went beyond exploring Italy. It involved rediscovering me after decades submerged in others' demands. I'd arrived here post-severing monetary support to my son, who'd treated me like an endless ATM. I'd come after resolving that my remaining days belonged to me, not to those who prized me solely for my contributions. And I learned that solitude can bring happiness, that deliberate aloneness trumps companionship that renders you unseen. Thus, this voyage rescued my essence, not in a literal sense, but it reclaimed my fading self-respect. As I concluded, moisture welled in my eyes, mirrored in several others around the table. A lady from Canada rose and embraced me. "Same here," she murmured. "I'm figuring that out too." We clung together like kin, sharing both wounds and recovery. That evening, back in my lodging, I powered up my phone fully at last. 53 messages awaited, unopened. Many from strangers, others from Chantel, a handful from Marcus. I clicked on one from Chantel haphazardly. It said, "Ruby, Marcus and I are facing grave money troubles. We sold the vehicle. The children are hurting due to your self-centeredness. Hope you're enjoying yourself." The words left me numb. No remorse, no anger, just detachment. It was striking how one could evade all accountability for their choices, squandering funds on extravagant voyages, then pinning the fallout on me. I erased it. A couple more followed suit. Each carried identical vibes: blame, coercion, efforts to stir shame. But now they fell flat. The susceptible side of me had vanished. I cleared them all, sending no responses. One stood out from Jamal. It varied. "Grandma, hoping your travels rock. Parents are upset, but that's on them, not you. I've begun job hunting to get my own place. Done with this cycle. When you're home, let's meet. Just us. Stay well." Those lines brought tears, but joyful ones brimming with possibility. My grandson was shifting the cycle, opting for change. I answered succinctly, "Jamal, the experience changed everything. Can't wait to catch up upon return. So proud of your independence. Love you. Sent." Then I shut it down once more. The next day I'd head back, but transformed from the departure version. That earlier Ruby lingered amid Rome and Venice. The returning one felt resilient, enlightened, whole. The return flight differed sharply from the way out. No anxious anticipation this time, just retrospective thanks. Thanks for each insight gained, each limit drawn, each instance I prioritized my serenity over their nods. Upon touchdown, Dot and Yvette awaited. They rushed over as I emerged, and we embraced, blending sobs with chuckles. "You seem changed," Dot remarked, stepping back to study my face intently. "I see it in your gaze." I have changed, I thought. I feel whole now. As we headed back to my place, I recounted the journey, the places we'd visited, the lady by the shore, the goodbye meal, and they hung on every word with the kind of focus only real pals offer. Upon reaching my door, an unexpected sight caught me off guard. A package sat there, covered in unmarked brown wrapping, no return address in sight. Dot and Yetta exchanged wary glances. "Should we stick around while you check it out?" Yetta offered. I gave a quick nod. Uncertainty gnawed at me, but having them nearby brought a sense of reassurance. Inside the flat, I shoved the luggage to one side. The parcel felt light as I carried it to the counter and peeled back the paper carefully. What lay within surprised me. A few items nestled together. On top, a note sealed in a plain white envelope. Underneath, the stack of cards I'd sent Marcus through the years, birthdays, Father's Days, holidays. Mixed in were faded pictures from his youth, his diploma ceremony, his big day with Chantel, and right at the base, a bank draft. My fingers shook as I lifted it, made out for $5,000 bearing Marcus's signature. In the note section, initial installment. I gazed at it for what felt like ages, emotions swirling in confusion. Dot shattered the quiet. "Go ahead and read the note," she urged gently. I slit the envelope open. The script was unmistakably his, that familiar tilt from his early handwriting days. "Mom, I'm struggling to even begin this. I've scratched out and redone these lines for weeks now. No words seem adequate. Nothing can undo my actions, but I have to make the effort. You're spot on about it all. I exploited you. I deceived you. I saw you as an ATM rather than my parent. Worst of all, I was aware of it every step. I recognized how wrong our scheme was. I knew it wounded you deeply, yet it was simpler to keep dipping into your funds than confront our money woes. Chantel and I had been splurging beyond our budget. We craved an image we couldn't afford, and you footed the bill for our ego. That voyage pushed me over the edge. Truth be told, it could have been any of the countless prior letdowns. When you shut down the account, fury took hold. I pointed fingers at you. I convinced Chantel you were acting out of spite and unreason. But as our world crumbled, selling the vehicle, missing bills, grappling with the fallout sans your backup, reality hit. I began grasping the depth of my disloyalty. I confided in Jamal. He laid out some brutal yet spot-on truths. He said I'd truly lost you not at the account closure, but long ago, when I reduced you to a cash source over a mom. And he nailed it. This draft marks the start. I realize $5,000 barely scratches the surface of the $62,000 I owe, but it's what I scraped up from offloading stuff and picking up overtime. My goal is $1,000 monthly until it's settled, not to buy absolution, which I haven't earned, just because it's the honorable path. Tears flowed freely as I pressed on. I'm not pushing for a call. I'm not pushing to rewind to our old dynamic. That's out of reach anyway. And honestly, you merit more than that faded version. All I seek is for you to recognize I've finally gotten it. I've seen I had an amazing mom and discarded her like trash. I've seen the priceless love you poured into my life, met with my apathy and exploitation. Chantel and I are tackling couples counseling. I'm diving into solo sessions too. For the first time in our union, we're confronting our issues squarely. It's raw and tough, but essential. The little ones are picking up lessons on money smarts and genuine family bonds beyond mere exchanges. I love you, Mom. I'm deeply sorry for the pain I caused. Marcus. I creased the paper deliberately and set it down. Dot and Ieta watched me closely. "What's your next move?" Dot inquired. "I'm not sure," I admitted frankly. One side of me itches to shred the draft and declare it's over. Yet a quiet, stubborn voice wonders if folks can truly evolve. Yet squeezed my fingers. No rush to choose. Give it time to reveal if it's real or more games. She had a point. These past months taught me that not every choice demands instant action. It's fine to linger in the unease of uncertainty. I tucked the note and draft away in a cabinet. I'd figure it out down the line. Right then, I craved simply savoring my return after a transformative adventure. My buddies crashed over that evening. We whipped up a meal side by side. We chuckled plenty. I flipped through journey snapshots, and for the first time in ages, my home buzzed with the proper kind of warmth. The days after focused on settling back in. I slipped into my daily rhythm, though altered. I stopped wasting hours staring at the eye sat by my phone, hoping for texts that would make me feel wanted. But instead, I threw myself into activities that truly sparked joy. The art workshops, strolls alongside Dot, chats over coffee with the veterinarian, and those video chats with Jamal, who followed through and started dropping by on his own, separate from his folks. Those moments felt fresh and authentic. He showed up without his usual demands. Instead, he shared tales from his fresh gig, posed sincere questions about my world, and displayed a true curiosity about the grandma I was, not just the part I'd filled in their messy household. One sunny afternoon, he surprised me with a bouquet, simply because, he explained, to show how much I mean to him. Tears streamed down my face. Finally, a family member offering something pure, with no strings attached. That right there was true kinship. 6 months following our Italy getaway, a shift occurred. Marcus's check remained untouched in the drawer. But each week, an unmarked envelope stuffed with $1,000 in bills appeared in my box. No messages, no reasons, just the cash, honoring the commitment. We'd grab quick coffees now and then, keeping things short and with firm lines drawn. Chantel and I kept things polite, yet at arm's length. Jamal and Naomi swung by often, and free from their parents' push, we'd forged a solid bond. Dot and Iete turned into my heartfelt circle. We journeyed side by side. We shared laughs. We grew older in sync, no approvals required. Last year I returned to Italy, bringing Dot along. We hit the familiar spots, yet everything shifted because I'd evolved. Tougher, more whole, more truly me. These days, 2 years on from spotting those cruise snapshots, serenity has settled in. Marcus continues settling the score. We're up to about $32,000 against the $62,000 total. Our connection stays civil, but it's not the old dynamic anymore. And that's perfectly fine, since at 73, I grasped life's biggest takeaway. True family skips the entry fee. Genuine affection doesn't drain your savings or spirit, and it's never, not for a second, too late to put yourself first. I didn't squander $62,000. I invested in my independence. I claimed my self-worth. I secured my calm. I earned the chance to spend my final chapters unburdened by others' demands. If this tale stirred something in you, if any piece rang true, if it prompted thoughts on your limits or ties, then my struggles fueled a greater good. They highlight that you merit honor too, that you can utter no without apology, that you can prioritize yourself guilt-free. After all, the sole companion through your whole existence is you, and that individual warrants your full affection, your fierce safeguarding, your unwavering allegiance, before extending it outward, even ahead of kin, because without self-care, others won't step up. That's the toughest yet most freeing reality you'll uncover. Enjoyed the tale. What's the city you're tuning in from? Drop by in the comments. If the story hit home, toss a super thanks my way to help me share more like it. Grateful for your kind backing. Can't wait to hear your thoughts below. Check the screen for 2 fresh life tales I swear by. Tons more awaits on my channel. Hit subscribe, won't you? Catch you in the next one, full of warmth and regard.